Hey ACLEA, thanks so much for the great session today. I had a ton of fun. Your participation was really, really wonderful and enjoyable. So I'm now going to answer some of these questions courtesy of you guys. And apparently this video is going to be sponsored by Peach because I'm borrowing their football. So thanks Peach for the football. Okay, so first question, and I have not read these ahead of time, so we'll see how it goes. If you don't have time for interviews, could you use a survey? Okay, this is a really good question. So, I don't have time for interviews. I got to put a program together. Can I just go send out an email survey to everyone? The short answer is no. That's basically it. No, you cannot use surveys. Here's the reason. The reason is that surveys will not give you... they will give you yes or no answers to questions, and you don't want yes or no. You want, what's the biggest challenge you face right now? You want, why is that hard? You want, what solutions have you looked for? And these are long answer questions, and if you've ever filled out a survey online, something tells me you're like me and everyone else out there on the internet, and you want to get through this thing as quickly as possible. So no one wants to, it's a lot of work to type. It's not a lot of work to talk about your problems. So no surveys, no. Great question, no surveys. Now, this idea that you don't have time, I really want to challenge that. I'm sure you're under some sort of deadline, but here's the deal. If you don't get the problems right, it doesn't matter what your deadline is because the whole thing's gonna fail. So I want to challenge, you running out of time so that you can build the wrong thing? Is that what the time pressure you're under? Oh, my boss really needs me to fail really quickly. If that's true, then go ahead and send a survey and take too much time. If, however, you're under some pressure to create a successful program, then it's time to really have a heart-to-heart with the person who's creating that deadline for you and tell them, look, the path to success is through problems, not through generating product. So I'm going to put something on hold so that I can go and identify my customers' problems. So that's question number one. No surveys, you must interview. Okay, question number two. More about idea generation and I interview customers and interviewing customers. Okay, more about idea generation. Okay, so let's talk about idea generation. So if this is idea generation as in like, hey, I need to come up with a new solution or a new technology or a new program or format, that's going to come straight from the problems. And what I want you to look at is something called design thinking. So design thinking is a process where you elicit people's problems and then you use them to iterate on potential solutions for them. So we didn't talk about in that our session today. I think Lynn Chard's session is talking about design innovation. So definitely reach out to Lynn because she will know that. But also just check the web for idea generation and, for design thinking. Design thinking is gonna be what you want. And then what happens after that is, again, everything that we think we know is wrong. That's the only thing that we know is that we're wrong. Whatever solutions you come up with are not going to work. They're not right, or at least they're not optimal. So the way that we go figure out what is optimal is by testing it. So I want you to come up with some ideas and then think about how you're going to test them. Oftentimes, if you're selling a program to an organization or you're selling it to an individual person or you're selling it to a group, then what you're going to want to do is take your potential solution, you're going to present it to a person, not as a pitch, not like, hey, I want to go do this thing for you. You want to go back and you want to say, hey, Susan, we talked earlier about the problems that you had. You told me these were your problems, problem 1, 2, 3. I've been working on a potential solution for those problems, and I wanted to get your feedback on it and see if it's going to work. And then you say, yeah, here's the solution that I was thinking about, and here's the problems that it could solve. What do you think? Is it going to solve the problems? What am I getting wrong? What's going to stop us? And you have a collaborative conversation about the potential solution. So that's how you go and test ideas. That this is no more pitching, no more like, hey, throwing something over the wall and hoping it works. Collaborative conversations and collaborative solution development will succeed far more often than just throwing something over the fence. Okay, great. Next one. in price testing, now explain to the 80%, the non-test group, they are paying a higher price if the higher price wins the test. Okay, so I think the concern here is, hey, I was testing at $100 for a session, and I was testing at $250 for a session. I sent it to 10%, got each one, and it turns out the $250 one was the winner. What do I tell to the rest of the 80% so that they don't freak out and wonder why they're paying more? For this question, I think it's worth asking yourself, what percentage of that 80% will know that there was another offer on the table? I think we're afraid about it being heard about through the grapevine, and I think it's less of a concern in reality than we think. Of course, me saying that guarantees that I'm wrong. I don't actually know. That's a hypothesis. So what I would encourage you to do is to test it, to try it out, see what happens when you do this. If it turns out that you get a wave of people who are all very upset that you've done this, okay, then great, sorry, my bad. It's going to be $80. It's $80. It's always $80, not a problem. You just go back to the low price point, the price you were going to test, and now we know that you just can't price test. That's just not a thing you could do. But give it a shot and try it, because in my experience, what I've done is I've simply done it, and I haven't had many, if at anyone, object. So give that a shot. You can also just be completely honest with people. That's another option. Like, hey, we don't know how to price this, so we're trying it at different points. And maybe the first time around, even all the people you send it to, maybe they all get the lower price point, but now you know, you have the data that says, you know what, $250 was the right price point. So going forward, you're going to charge $250. So good question, but I think it's going to be less of an issue than you think, than it might think. And give it a shot and test it out and see what happens. And know that what you're doing is trying to serve others and serve yourself. So being honest about what happens is not the end of the world. Okay, last question. My biggest problem is getting prospects to respond to my inquiries. They simply ignore my emails and phone calls. How do I get them to respond? Great question. So this is where we have a conversation about failure in earnest, because all business and all initiatives are surrounded by failure. It's something in the entrepreneurial community we sort of embrace and kind of understand. But I just want to come out and say it straight up. It's very likely these people are not your customers. It's very likely that that if you can't even get someone to talk to you about the problems that they have, these people don't have problems that they think you can solve. So an example might be like, hey, let's say I want to create hula hoops for dogs. And so I decide that I want to go and have conversations with dog owners about this cool new idea. If it turns out that I can't even get dog owners to talk to me about the problems they have with their dog, then I don't have a customer segment. There's nothing for me to do, right? It could also be that I'm looking in the wrong places, or I'm starting the conversation in the wrong way. So if I run around the park saying, I've got hula hoops for dogs, who will talk to me about hula hoops for dogs, and they think it's a stupid idea, then they're probably not going to be eager to talk. If, however, I go to a dog park and I say, oh my God, that dog is adorable, it is gorgeous, and I mean it in a genuine way, and I play with the dog, and then I say, I've got a new idea for something that, I don't know, that could help your dog be more healthy. Can I ask you a couple questions about your dog? So I'm being very vague, but I'm hinting that I might be able to solve a problem for them. So for you, I don't know who your customer segment is, but if it's a lawyer or a law firm, is it possible to meet them at a networking event, or to meet them somewhere and say, ask them about what they're working on, ask them about, big case, or ask them about something, and then ask them, hey, what are the big challenges that you're working on? What's stopping you from excelling at your job? What are the big hurdles? And then having an honest conversation about those. I might start there. I might start in person, where you're sort of shooting fish in a barrel. And then what you can do is you can use what you learned from that first conversation to maybe send out emails or calls. So let's say in the first conversation, someone says, oh, my big problem is ACLEA, it takes too much time to get there, and I have to schedule it, and it's just annoying, right? So you're getting the impression they want something self-serve, right? So you have this conversation with them, and then maybe you call up someone else, and you get a voicemail, and you say, hey, you know what? I was talking to another a lawyer, and he had mentioned that he's got problems around blah 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 blah, around scheduling time or whatever. Is that something that you're running into as well? Like, seed them with a problem and see if that will get them to elicit a response. If you get their voicemail, then it's like, hey, I'm hearing some lawyers who are having this problem. If you're having that problem and you want to talk about a solution, I'm trying to design one. Can you give me a call back? And maybe that won't work, and maybe a cold email along the same lines won't work. If it doesn't work, that means that this customer is not particularly passionate about this problem, and you may have to give up the ghost on them. That's part of this whole testing nature, is that not everything we put in front of customers is going to work. So we have to be prepared, and that's why we test it, because things are going to fail. So A, know that you're going to fail. B, know that if your customers don't even want to talk to you about a solution, it's very unlikely they want to use a solution. And then number 3, to the best of your ability, use those problems to try and leverage and initiate a conversation. So those are 4 great questions. Again, it was just a real pleasure to work with you guys and chat with you. If there's anything else I can do to help, please just let me know. Have a good one.